welcome to Revision Log 3.
Year 11, the key to English literature results and them being what you need them to be is revision. So you have an awful lot of content in English literature, and the key thing is to be able to speak about every character in each of the stories that you have read. So a good way to know that you know everything about each character is to take one character at a time and think about the critical events in that character's life. So 5 key events in that character's life for you to revise and create something like this. Now this is quite basic, it can be much more detailed than this, but I took Romeo because that's what you're studying right now, and I've looked at the 5 key things that happen in Romeo's life. So at the beginning he's a little bit of a lost boy, and that's important in the exam. So if you get Romeo as your key character, what is your first impression of him? What's your first thing that you know about him, the first thing that he's presented to the audience? The same would be for Maggie, for Willie in Hobson's Choice, or for Jekyll in Jekyll and Hyde, or the Doctor in Frankenstein. Whatever story you're doing, always talk about the first impression and a quote about him. So this is not Romeo, he's a bit of a lost boy at the beginning. The second thing that happens to Romeo is he meets Juliet and he calls her his holy shrine. Third thing, they get married. We met, we wooed, we exchanged vows. Another key quote. The fourth thing, kills Tybalt and is banished, exile him hence. And then the fifth thing is he kills Paris and kills himself. With a kiss I shall die. So you've got 5 key events and 5 key quotes, but this would make your exam answer on Romeo, and you could track through how he was at the beginning, how he develops, how he changes, and how he ends. You do exactly the same thing with any character from any literature test that you've studied, and therefore you have got ready for an exam answer the key things about them despite whatever the question may be. So if the question's about Juliet, same format, what was she like at the beginning, what was she like in the middle, how does she change, what was she like at the end. Exactly the same for Hobson's Choice. How is Hobson first presented to you? What's your first impression of him? How does he change? How does he develop? And what's his exit like? A character in literature, it's important that you can do that. But this is no good unless you can do it without the sheet in front of you. So create this for yourself, then give it to your mum, your dad, your friend, and ask them to test you on everything that happens to Romeo. And you need to be able to say all of that with the 5 quotes without the sheet in front of you, and that's the only way that you know you can do it without the exam. So creating mind maps, timelines and everything is a really good idea, but unless you can do this with it face down or away from you, then you're not revising. So the key is, remember all the characters from all the stories, but be able to talk about them without anything in front of you, just like you will in the exam.